This is part 2 in a 2-part video series where we talk about creating cascading combo boxes. In the first video, we talked about creating cascading combo boxes where the query criteria look directly at the combo boxes in the open form. For the second method, we'll use QueryDefs. Now, a QueryDef object is simply an object that exposes a collection of queries in the Access database. So to begin, we will go to the Access database, and it should look familiar to you. It's the same database we used in the previous video on cascading combo boxes. We have our vehicle tables and our queries and the form. So this video essentially starts where the previous video left off. And to create our QueryDefs, we'll need to go into code. So we'll go into the Visual Basic editor, and I'll create a procedure. And I went ahead and created a private subroutine called vehicle model set, and we can go ahead and create some basic error handling. So now that we've just about completed that, we will go ahead and create our QueryDef object. First, I will say dimQD, and it doesn't have to be named QD. I just prefer to name QueryDefs QD, but you can name them whatever you'd like. So I'll say dimQD as a DAO.QueryDef. And we need to point this QueryDef to a particular query in our database, and the query we'll point it to is called vehicle model. So we will go back to the Visual Basic editor, and we'll say set QD equal to the current db.QueryDefs. And so now that the QueryDef is pointing to the vehicle model query, the QueryDef is essentially now the QRY vehicle model query. So the vehicle model query, as we know, needs the vehicle make so that it can return all the particular models pertaining to the make. So to do that, we will go to Access, and we will go to the vehicle model query, and we will go to parameters, and I will create a parameter here called vehicle make ID. I added an @ symbol here. Just as a personal preference, you don't have to add an @ symbol. I tend to prefer to add them for parameters, but you can name this whatever you like. So now that we have the parameter created, we will replace what we had before from the previous video with the parameter we just created. And we will go back to the Visual Basic editor, and to pass this parameter that we just created to this QueryDef, we will say qd.parameters, and we will pass the name of the parameter we just created, and we say .value, and for now I'll just say is equal to blank. Now we have to pass the vehicle make to this parameter, so how are we going to do that? Well, we can pass the vehicle make as a parameter to this vehicle model set procedure. So I'll say lng vehicle make ID as a long. So this is a long integer that we're passing in, which is the vehicle make, and we'll pass it to this parameter right here. So now that we've done that, we need to set the ComboBox row source equal to this particular QueryDef, the results, that is, of the QueryDef. So how are we going to do that? To do this, we will say set me.cbo vehicle model.record set equal to qd.open record set. So we're setting the vehicle model combo box record set equal to the QueryDef.open record set. Finally, we need to close our QueryDef and deallocate it so we can save system resources in memory. So we'll say if not qd is nothing, then qd.close and set the qd equal to nothing. So now that we've done this for the vehicle models, we need to do the same thing for the vehicle trims. And the vehicle trims will be essentially the same kind of query as the vehicle model. So I'll just copy it and paste it, and we'll just change some values in here. So we'll change vehicle model here to trim, and we'll change it here as well. And we want to look at the vehicle trim combo box, not the vehicle model combo box. And the parameter we'll create, we haven't done that yet, but the parameter we will create will be for the model. And the parameter that we pass in is going to be the model ID, not the make ID. And I'll paste that right here. So in the sub, we have vehicle trim set. We're passing in a vehicle model. We're setting the QueryDef equal to the vehicle trim query, and the parameter is going to be vehicle model. We're passing in the vehicle model that was passed into the vehicle trim set query, and we're setting the vehicle trim combo box record set equal to the QueryDefs record set. Now we need to modify the vehicle trim query to look at that. We will set the parameter equal to vehicle model ID, and that'll be a long integer. And we need to save the parameter right here in the criteria section for vehicle model ID. And now that we've done that, we need to remove the row source for these combo boxes because we're setting the QueryDefs of the combo boxes instead. So now we can go ahead and take a look and see what happens. If I select a manufacturer, you'll notice that nothing shows up in the model combo box. And why is that? Well, this is because in the Visual Basic Editor, we haven't actually used these particular procedures that we just created, so we have to actually use them. So whenever the vehicle make is selected, we are going to run the query. We're going to run the procedure vehicle model set. So instead of requery, we will say vehicle model set, and we will pass the combo box value for the make to that procedure. And also, we don't need to requery the vehicle trim combo box every time the vehicle make is updated, because we'll do something different, and I'll show you that in a moment. So for the vehicle trim set procedure, we'll set that in the vehicle model after update. So instead of requerying it, we will instead run that particular procedure, and we'll pass the model ID number. So we can take a look at it. If I select Ford, for instance, we can select F-150. You see the different trim levels just like before. And I can change this to Honda and select an Accord, and you see the different trim levels for, say, an Accord. Now, you could think that we are done, but there is a little bit more work that we need to do. For instance, if a user were to simply remove the text of this combo box and try to move away, it will throw an error. So we need to fix that. The reason it's throwing an error is because we attempted to pass a null value into this procedure, and that is an illegal action. So I will just wrap this particular value with an NZ, which stands for null 0. So whenever this encounters a null, it'll instead pass a 0. And I will do the same thing right here. So now we can take a look and see what happens if we were to say select Ford F-150 in the XL trim. If we eliminate the Ford, it doesn't throw an error now. and it leaves the combo boxes blank, which is what we want to see. So now what we need to do is, if we were to click the reset button, we want to instead change the, so if we go to the vehicle reset button, what we can do instead is, instead of requerying these and setting the values equal to 0, we can actually comment the value and the requery out, and we can actually say set.record set equal to nothing. And so for the value and the requery, we can just say set.record set equal to nothing. And we can requery that, and if we select our model and everything, we can say reset, and it actually resets the combo boxes. So this is the code for using QueryDefs. And why would we want to use QueryDefs instead of the method listed in the first video? Well, the reason is because having a single form that the queries reference all the time may be appropriate 80 or 90% of the time, but that 20 or 10% of the time, you may actually have a case where you're actually creating a particular instance of a form, and in that case, the query criteria sections of these queries won't know where to get the value. And say, for instance, you created multiple instances of this vehicle search form. In that case, especially, the criteria section for these queries wouldn't know which form to point to. But now, each of these forms have their own QueryDefs within the module of the particular form. So this is actually a much more powerful, much more robust, and much more professional way of creating cascading combo boxes. And it's much more bulletproof than the previous method, because this would work even when we're creating multiple instances of, say, the vehicle form. So that concludes this particular video. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to leave them below the video, and please stay tuned for future videos. Thank you.